So thank you very much, Samantha, for joining us for this interview. Again, massive congratulations on winning the Critics' Prize at Emerging Filmmakers Night. Can you tell us a bit more about your experience of the event?
Well, it's probably my second Zoom festival thing, which is very strange getting used to that whole setup and everything. But it's also lovely because you do make an evening of it. Like sometimes they separate it and you watch films on different days, but it doesn't feel like an event. So this was like a lovely something is happening in chronological order, and you're forced to endure it is the wrong word, but you
Sit
see
through
everything
it.
available. Yeah, no, it's no, but it's very cool, and it's always lovely to see, upcoming shorts even during all this. It's like a nice reminder that it's not all bad.
Fair enough. How was it for you having this real time interaction with viewers?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting it being on, I mean, considering the film itself, Friends Online, it's very, comments and online thing. And then I'm watching the film and then seeing people going like, oh, lol, cool. And it's like, whoa, what kind of alter universe
Oh yeah,
is this where it's kind of like, yeah,
very
life is
meta.
changing up. Yeah, it's nuts, to be honest.
Well, congratulations again. So we're going to go back in time to your
Mhm.
early steps as a filmmaker. Can you tell us a bit more about how you got into that?
Well, I started off as an actress. I was a teenage actress. I did like my first job was quite fun. It was playing a young version of Barbara Windsor in a short film about her life.
Okay.
It was it was one. Do you know Little Crackers? It was like a Sky thing back in the day, about 10 years ago. And
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
hers was my first brassiere, and it was about how her tits separated her from other girls, and it was great fun, and it was really like, whoa, this is magic, this is something else. And then I did a bit of like TV and film a few years following that, but then I don't know, there was something in as much as you didn't, even though like, female filmmakers and all that was like a thing, it wasn't, I didn't see any. Like I worked with one female filmmaker as an actress, and even other actresses would go, "Oh wow, like you're working with a lady." Like it was like a thing, and it wasn't that long ago. And I kind of, that old saying, "Be a part of the change you want to see." So I did, and I just applied for competitions and stuff. I didn't think anyone would ever take me seriously, or that I would ever actually be able to pull it off. There was just something of a but I'm just an actress. Like, you know what I mean? It's a very different ballpark. But then I with the BFI Film Academy, I wrote Friends Online with a screenwriting residential, the very first one back in 2014. So that was fun. And then I just interned as like a production assistant and a runner for Biffa, for Dirty Films. Really great credit to Creative England, because they really did help, getting a foot in the door, because I have no connections in my family or anything. And then I went to Paris to study filmmaking, and then I made this short film, and then another one, and now we're up to here. Here
So
I am.
this is effectively your first actual short.
Yeah,
That's really impressive.
thanks. I mean, you did like a couple of documentaries, short documentary things, which were good fun. I did one about my grandmother and her husband and their kind of living with Alzheimer's. And then I did one about Brexit, just as Brexit was happening.
Right.
Like, oh, no, that's a lie, about 6 months after the vote. And I came back and I interviewed people all over the country, like teachers, strippers, uh, business owners, students, people who didn't vote. And it was that was good fun, because I came away from that going, I completely understand Brexit now. I totally understand, like, in as much as, okay, I understand the majority half who voted to leave, because there's actually a lot of them. That's the thing. There were a lot of people who were, and a lot of it, I would go to like Liverpool or whatever, and I'd interview someone. They go, "Oh, my neighbor Greg has got great insight." I go interview Greg and go, "Greg, what's your thing?" "Oh, what do you hear them?" And you're like, "Okay, brilliant, great." Like, no, straight into it. And that was good fun. But then, yeah, so the first fiction film is Friends Online.
Right. Where are have you done anything with those first couple of docs? Have you put them online or?
They though, do have I? I think they are. Yeah, they're on Vimeo or whatnot, and they're just kind of. It was more of a. I remember sort of crying. I cry quite a lot, but I was crying during one of my lessons or something. Not like, you know, a full meltdown, but quietly like, what documentary could I make? What do I know about the world? Like very, you know, self-deprecating, like, but that was good in as much as it pushed me to, you know, do all the sound, do all the camera, do all the producing, get everything together, do the interviews. You know, where's the SD card? Bollocks, I've left it on the train. You know, no, but it's that kind of like guerrilla filmmaking when it's just you, and it was good. And then Friends Online was a kind of not too different in as much as it was like an interview setting again. It was okay, you're looking at the computer now, be pervy and type. Like it was a same
Mhm.
kind of deal, I suppose. But it was I think if I don't know, I'm a very early stage in my career, uh, and it's kind of the little patterns. No, but I don't want to be like, you know, oh, in my great selection of films. But like you can see where I find safe when you have a stable, you know what I mean, like in that kind of I got my frame, I'm good.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
There's
Well,
security in it, there's
yeah.
something because I'm not, I mean, when I first got to film school, I was the only one who was like working as well as like a bartender, and it was a nightmare because I'd go like, because it's like like 2 a.m. that they close bars, and then I go to school at 9 a.m. and it would be, I had insomnia for about 3 years, but it was fun because you had all these very serious camera types, and they were, you know, director, and then I was this.
That was in Paris. That was the film school in
That was in
Paris.
Paris, yeah. So it's
Wait,
an international school, yeah.
right. Okay. What took you there as opposed to studying in the UK?
Very good question. It was a case of I needed a change and I needed a shock to the system. And London is very expensive, and Paris was cheaper. Paris was different. It was going to force me to learn a new language. It was going to force me to grow up, because a part of me was going, all right, princess, no one's going to take you that seriously setting off. But if you sort of adapt to a new culture, adapt to a new country, adapt to a new language, and manage to get through film school and come out with a couple of films, you could be okay. And it was kind of like, it was me going, grow up kind of thing. That was my thing. But I don't know if it worked.
Did you make any useful contacts there? Are you still in touch with people you met there?
Yeah, there was a lovely bunch, a really lovely bunch. All so I mean, I was the only well, British person there for the whole thing, and everyone sort of became a representative of their country. Like, what's happening? What is Brexit? You explain. You speak on behalf, and it was great. So there are a few really stellar filmmakers that have come out of it, but then also it was really good because it didn't, even if you weren't auteur, you know, writer director, people found their niche, like I'm the sound guy, and they would be extremely good at it. But it was also really good because it really was 50-50 men and women. It wasn't a, like, if you
Right.
happen to have a fully, you know, your whole camera crew is women, it wasn't a thing. You just go, oh, that's nice. But it wasn't like a shock at all. So, and I think a lot of us on the girl side were sort of a bit worried about going into the industry and having to deal with that again almost. But you know, it was really good. Like the girl who did my cinematography and editing on Friends Online is Marta Biancheri, who's from Italy, and she's extremely talented. And then yeah, she's my OG. But there
And
was,
you met her at the school.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, okay. And so that was for 3 years, and then you came back to the UK to London then.
South of, so Horsham, West Sussex.
Right. Okay. Which is where you're originally from.
No, I'm
Oh,
originally, I was born in Red Hill, but then grew up in Dorking in Surrey. But I mean, it's not far away. It's
okay. Fair
the
enough.
faraway land of Dorking. Have you heard of it?
Very mystical.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
so once you'd come back, is that when you started interning as a runner, as a production assistant?
No, no, I did that
Oh yeah.
before I left for
Right.
Paris.
Okay. And you started to work on the film when you came back. Really, that was it. You started your work as a filmmaker.
Well, I only came back January of 2020.
Oh,
So I,
fair enough. Very recent.
sorry, yeah.
Okay, then the
So yeah,
pandemic
so I
happened. So
graduated. Yeah, I graduated December of 2019. I came back January of 2020. A little thing called the pandemic hit,
okay, fair enough.
and it so since it's been fun, but it has forced, like, it's given me time to sit down and write out the things that I almost didn't before, you know.
That's
Like,
what I've heard a lot of filmmakers
yeah,
say. I think it's the one section of the population that's really benefited from this pandemic.
yeah.
So many have said, well, at least it meant I got to focus and write or do the post production on my film that's been sitting there for, for
Yeah,
ages.
absolutely. But or even just like there's that little voice inside of you that goes, if you're gonna waste this time, you don't bloody deserve it. Like, you know, there is there and there is something that's kind of not very helpful, but also quite helpful about that, in as much as it's like, you haven't done any writing today, do it, fail. And there is this like, oh, okay, kind of thing. But that comes and goes. And I think the only thing with the current lockdown situation, before there was kind of like, okay, you have 3 months. Okay, you have a month. Now it's more difficult because it's like you have a, like, insert number here, length of time. Do with that what you will. So it's a weird, yeah, it's a weird bag. I don't, yeah,
Yeah, well, without knowing when it ends or when things start to change again.
yeah,
Fair enough.
exactly. But that's
Yeah.
everyone's in the same boat. So.
So going back to friends online,
Mm.
tell us a bit more about how you made your decision to make it stylistically and tonally how it's ended up, because it could easily have slipped into something quite grim or horror or or maybe
Mm.
more social realism. So what's behind your decision
It's it
of
just
making it a bit of a black comedy, really?
yeah, I mean, it's kind of in the vein of, it was sort of intentionally going to be more of a horror, more of a but I mean, obviously, like, Get Out is a masterpiece, but in that sense that it is a horror with humor injected into it, and that was sort of more where I was going with it. Um, it was like, okay, this is the situation and stuff, but you need sort of comic relief to remind everyone that it's, you know, it is a bit of a joke, the whole situation is absurd. It's okay to laugh, it's okay to, you know and it was very interesting because it was, Black Mirror, Utopia, that series that was from about a decade ago, that was a huge
Mm,
influence, especially the music. And it's more this kind of cheeky, it is very British, and everyone sort of kept reminding me, like, when I was in France making it, they're like, oh, this is very British humor. I'm like, yeah, I know, that's but it was kind of that, it's okay to have a giggle, even if it's a bunch of pedos online. It's okay to have a giggle way of approaching it. And it's more natural to me. Like, when I'm awkward or tense or don't know what to do, I make jokes. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And this was kind of like a manifestation of that.
I can definitely see why they would say this. And yes, when it comes down to it, you think of series like League of Gentlemen, for example, or even something
Mm,
like Peep Show, where there's a knack for finding humour and
mm,
something the hilarious in something that's either really disgusting, really awkward, really unhealthy, and really
mm.
disturbing. And I think that's probably the thing I like the most about living here and growing up in Britain. Really, is that
Yeah,
very specific sense of humour.
yeah, there is this sort of like, cheer up, sunshine, it could be worse, kind of quirk to it. And even in that, it's kind of, I don't know, there's something so, like, for example, I saw Saint Maud recently, from Rose.
Same, yeah.
Oh my
How did you
God.
find that?
I came out like shaking, like, I am in love with this woman. Make her. This is the best thing I've ever seen. I mean, my dad and I went to go see it in the cinema, and at that ending, I shouted,
Spoiler alert.
no, 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 no.
Just in
I just
case.
went, fuck off, because I was just not.
No,
Because
no.
it was so like, but genius filmmaking. And it's that kind of horror also slightly intimidates me. I think there's this thing with, like, romance or horror, or I don't know if I would be able to pull it off
Hmm.
yet, because I don't know, but comedy is my, like, safe go-to. It's so much, if I can make someone go, it's it's a way of sort of keeping them I don't know, we'll get there hopefully eventually, maybe, but there's something about that pressure of, well, if you're making a horror, it's got to be scary. The same way if you make a comedy, it's got to be funny. But that's just, I personally find that easier for me, though people do say they're quite close, so we'll see one day.
Well, the combination of the two is a really hard thing to get right. And I think well done that you've managed
Thank
this tonal shift very, very subtly. I don't know if you know of them, just throwing names out there.
you.
The Duplass brothers, who
Mm.
made quite a number of things, really. One of the best examples of their work I can give, they're two brothers
Mm.
who work in the US, and they're both filmmakers, and one of them tends to be the main actor in their work. And they've done everything, and everything they do it really, really well. So they've done
I
a
hate them
series on
already.
HBO. Sorry?
I hate them already.
Yeah, but they are really likable.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah, no, of
a
course, of
series on
course.
HBO, which is mostly a romantic comedy, really,
Mm.
in which one of them stars, and it's absolutely hilarious. And they've done horror, and they've done documentaries. They did, I think they're behind, but I think they're the producers, not the directors, of Wild Wild West. If
Oh
you
yeah.
remember that on Netflix. So a couple of their films, I don't know if you've heard of them. They're called Creep and Creep Two, but not the English Creep, which takes place in the London Underground,
I
um,
don't know then, I'm
where
sorry.
a man finds a filmmaker finds an ad on Craigslist
Right.
where a man's asking for him to come and film him over a number of days because he's got cancer and he wants to leave a video behind for his kids.
Okay.
It's brilliant. And another film they've done called Baghead, and they both are just right. The scary bits are really scary. They're
Yeah.
really creepy, and the comedy is laugh out loud funny.
No.
So, and the only reason I'm thinking of them is because I can't actually think of that many people that managed to get this
Mm.
balance right.
I,
So it's no mean feat.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Get Out for me was a moment
Oh,
because
Get Out, yeah,
Get Out just because it was. I mean, the writing is fantastic, and it was that that it was just very very well made. It was very very clever, and the funny bits were funny, and they were just at the right time because you had this, "Ooh," and you went, oh, brilliant, fantastic. That was I think the best, but also Joker I found to be very good at that, from last year,
I
like.
found it very hard to find any funny bits in Joker. It was the bleakest film I'd ever seen, and I think I was traumatized for about 3 months after
Yeah,
that.
but
It's very good though.
and it is very good, but like there is a couple of moments where find myself laughing, whether it's a nervous laughter, like when he's, no spoiler, but like when he's in his apartment and the two guys come round and stuff goes down, he's got the makeup on.
Yes.
There was a few moments of like, just because I don't know the absurdity of the situation or whatnot, but it was very kind of like, oh, I'm allowed to release some tension here, but it definitely sort of dropped that comedic moment towards the end. It got yeah, but I found it very powerful, but I found it very also, you never you pity him, the protagonist, the whole way through, and I don't think at any point you go, god, I wish I was him. And that, what was very nice about it is that it was a different relationship you had with the protagonist that you do in other films, and I thought that was very.
I can't agree more. That's why I had an issue with people that said it was a call to arms for the
Yeah, like
thugs and so on.
it was not a, hey, incel, you're the man. It was,
No.
no, it was very much but also this whole idea that, oh, society had done this to him. He was doing it to himself as well, but you could, because of the human error, the natural to err, right? You could see how it would go down, and if you didn't sort of stop yourself in the situations, and it was very much, yeah. I knew a few people back in Paris who were like, oh, it's pro incel and a call to arms, I'm not going to watch it. And it was like, what's really interesting is that I found the Joker that Heath Ledger portrayed, who was cool, who was together and
Yeah.
organized, way more romanticized, even though it was an extremely good performance. But even that, it's just film, so
Yeah, no, I agree. He was cool, he was handsome, he had a swagger about him, whereas
totally.
um
But even in
the
Saint Maud, I mean,
yeah.
I thought that was terrific because it was, I mean, I read an interview where she said it was kind of based on um, if the taxi driver guy was a nurse in some seaside town in London. And it is kind of, I thought, the female alternative to that kind of character. Again, at no point do I go, God, I want to be her, but you can see that journey, you can see that.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really lovely alternative, you know, for that kind of misfit character that you're never gonna admire, but you enjoy watching her journey to a point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
it says a lot more about society itself and the way we interact with others and so on than glamorizing the main
Yeah,
characters
you
anymore.
see yourself in the people around them as well. Like you
Yeah.
see the person who's trying but isn't going to get involved too much, or you know what I mean. You know that you yourself, as a person in society, probably wouldn't go, "I'll save you." You would be like, "What do you want? Get away!" Like it's a lovely lens. Like it's a lovely perspective.
Hmm. No,
Mm.
agreed, agreed.
And I
Well, you've talked about a bit about the films you like and your influences, which
yeah.
I was going to ask you about. What's
Well, I guess
next?
that's more
Are
connect.
you?
Sorry, I was just because
Yeah.
and where the main character in Friends Online is, he's not a good guy. You don't like him. You don't, again, you pity him, his situation and everything, but his the bit that sort of is redeeming is the fact that he seemed more emotionally invested than any of
Yes.
the characters,
Yeah.
and I think that's where obviously, as a short, it doesn't touch, Rose Glass or Joker or whatnot, but that kind of anti-hero who's trying, who's maybe more romantic, who's more feeling, who's more in his own way. I mean, he's hardly got the best intentions, let's be honest, but it's a very you see where your own struggles. I mean, the whole thing for me was like a frustration with uh social media and this need to build yourself up or lie or give yourself a persona in order to seem worthy of attention, so and it was kind of that, but he's looking for a connection where a connection could not be made,
Yeah,
really.
and I think that's why it's I feel like successful filmmakers, good filmmakers, really manage to find the humanity in their characters and the nuances in those characters, whatever their actions and
Mhm.
whoever they might represent or be. So I totally see those influences in even a short film that you've made. It's really really good. So last question really is what's next really? What projects are you going to
Yeah,
be working on?
yeah. So
Any
I
ideas for the future?
so I in from that short thing I did with Barbara Windsor, who passed away recently. It was very which shook me quite a fair bit. She was a terrific woman, like, but she was so clever. And what annoys me is no one in the big society. She was so shrewd and focused, and just yes, she was beautiful. Yes, she had she was vivacious and all this stuff, but she was so bloody clever. And so over the last couple of years, as like almost love letter to that time in her, I've written this TV series called A Piece of Cake, and it's essentially it's a matriarchal gangster drama with a little bit of carry on humor and cheekiness thrown into it. There's not all of that sort of world, but there is a sense of humor and the sexuality and that absurdity mixed with sort of violence in that. So it's essentially about her husband getting quite brutally murdered, and she has to sort of take over the gang. So it's her matriarchal rise to power.
Mm. It's a bit like is it in any way a bit like Widows? That's what it made me think of.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like if you were to take a little bit of Widows, a little bit of Peaky Blinders, a little bit of Carry On, and a little bit of Mad Men. It's essentially all my favorite shows combined into one. Very what's nice is that it's quite a there's quite a collection of characters, but there is this very strong sort of East End 60s London code. You know, like you could skin a man alive in the streets, but if a woman walks in the room, you will stand up. There is a very interesting mix of like drugs are dirty and we don't do them. But if we need to do something brutal like pull fingernails off, yeah, it's all right. There's a very weird, you know, women and children are to be respected and left alone, but at the same time, they're so involved because it's all family, it's family. And I mean, even Barbara herself, she had a little bit of a go at me at one point, and my mum, because I didn't know the Hail Mary prayer. And I just found it, she's extremely Catholic. She was like, how come you don't know the Hail Mary? I'm like, because I'm not religious. I don't know, sorry. I'll learn it very quickly, but, you know, I'm tired. But, and then there was also this sort of regal sense of justice and position and whatnot. And the nickname of the main character is the Duchess. And it's kind of very much inspired by a few women I've known, by Barbara. It's this very, it's a cheeky London take on a period gangster drama. But
I'm
we'll see.
excited to see more of that. So, do you have any leads or any plans to get
At
them
the moment,
commissioned or paid?
this is well, that's the next big question, isn't it? It's at the moment it's more getting pen to paper and finishing it.
Right.
I'm about 5 episodes in. But it's interesting. My that's the next big one that that's the thing that I think would be the big one, even if it takes 10 years. I don't care. I really want to just, you know, get that together. At the moment, I mean, it's very difficult with the pandemic. I'm looking for a job. I'm looking to collaborate. I'm looking to all the things you do post, you know, uni. There is no on the horizon this great, oh yes, Netflix have come running. Like, that's not true, but it takes hard work, and that's absolutely fine, and I look forward to doing that. You know, it's I think if this pandemic has taught me anything positively, it's that it doesn't happen overnight. You know, if it was easy, everyone would do it, and I'm just going to keep pursuing my passion projects with all the tenacity I can. But weirdly, I'm not worried. You know what I mean? It's
Well, I mean, you've managed to make quite a successful short in that time, so it's not like you've wasted those months.
well, it's just a case of, you know, yeah, I look forward to putting the work in. Weirdly,
Good. Well, we look forward to seeing the results of that work. So, thank you very
eventually in
much.
50 years' time, and you go, oh my god, she actually got it together. Wow. But that's fine. That's fine.
It will be about that time that we're allowed to meet again, so
Exactly.
we'll celebrate.
Oh my god, I saw this great meme or something where it was about what's is it the guy from the Ricky Gervais's friend?
Stephen Merchant.
No, the smaller bald one.
Oh,
Yes,
I forgot his name.
it's like Pilkington or something
Carl
similar.
Carl Pilkington.
Okay, yeah, and it was a thing of it was like, oh, in 30 years time when you're able to get finally a drink at the pub or something, and it was just a clip of someone saying, do you know how much money you spent? He went, no. He goes, 2,500. Goes, fuck off. That's a brilliant sum up of what we've got to look forward to. So I don't know, it tickled me. But yeah. Ah.
Fingers crossed it won't be that long.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking part in the interview.
Thank you
Best
for
of luck
having
for
me.
the
This is
rest.
lovely.
Great. And thank you and well done. Congratulations again.
Cheers. Well, thank you for choosing it.